And I thought your title here, your subtitle, laughing at myself, the subtitle is My Education in Congress, on the Farm, and at the Movies was quite clever. But
By the way, the folks at KU Press helped come up with that title. I
good.
didn't know that.
Talk about the importance of places like the Dole Institute or the Institute of Politics at the Kennedy School or many of the other similar institutes around the country.
Well, I'll give you an example, because I sat with 3 really bright kids tonight at dinner. So I was the director of the institute, and we had the student advisory council like you did, and we had, I think, some of the smartest kids at Harvard that were there and came to our functions. And there was this one kid that was really impressive, and he came to all the functions. He asked a lot of questions. He clearly was interested in politics, and today he's the Secretary of Transportation of the United States, Pete Buttigieg. And so you think that, you can have actual impact on people's lives. And there were a lot of kids who did go into politics per se, went into public service, and a lot of people went into business and other kinds of professions. But if you get them to understand the American political system, how it works, especially the practical aspects of how it works, and how you have to work together, you can, impact not only their lives, but the people around them and the society. And so that's what you're trying to do here and at most institutes around the country. And it is to give people an understanding of what politics means and how you can impact it. It doesn't mean the political science departments aren't important, because you got to learn about the history and what our Constitution's all about and why we do the things that we do. But unless you are where the rubber hits the road and kind of see the impact of it, and the way to do that is to bring in people of practice, people who've worked in the system, people who understand the system, and then to show people that you can make a difference. So, and that's why your institute is so important here. And then you have the luxury of having one of the great leaders of American history is the named person on this particular institute.
What was the most satisfying part of that job, Dan?
I got to well, 2 things. I got to help pick the speakers, and so we didn't just have political speakers. I love comedy. So I remember we had Jon Stewart come, and we had Mo Rocca come, and we had a lot of comedians, not comedians per se, but humorists come, and they were really an important force to kind of level the playing field and make it more interesting. And then, of course, we had for the presidential campaign. I was there during the 2004 presidential campaign, and we had all the presidential candidates come, and I remember this debate that occurred between most of the candidates. So that was also very interesting, and the students got to actually run that whole show.
Okay. Tell us about your time as chairman of the Motion Picture Association of America. You did that for 5 years, and if I recall correctly, your first visit to the Institute, you were talking about Hollywood and your role there. What was that role like?
So to give you some idea how I got the job, because it's clear that I don't look like Tom Cruise. And although my son is an actual movie producer, and he's been in the business for almost 20 years. And so we loved movies. So when I was in Congress, my wife would take my kids to the movies on weekends. They'd sometimes see 4 or 5 movies. I'd go with them when I was at home. I mean, we were big aficionados of movies, all kinds of movies. And so I get a call from a headhunter saying Jack Valenti is retiring. Some of you remember he was the longtime head of the Motion Picture Association, was a longtime PR guy for Lyndon Johnson, and was on the airplane when Johnson was sworn in. So Valenti liked me. I had served on the House Judiciary Committee, and I got other people involved, like Dole helped, Senator Roberts helped, Senator Moran was a congressman, then helped, and they chose me for the job. Didn't have a lot of experience in the movie industry. I mean, I had to tell people. I had one guy with one of the studios said, "What do you know about movies?" And I said, "Well, when I was in the agriculture department, I used to grow popcorn, and now I'll learn to sell popcorn." It's an interesting world. It's not the job that I look at my career and think, this was the epic of my life. I didn't have lunch with Angelina Jolie or Scarlett Johansson or, I I did walk the red carpet a few times. And that was, I thought to myself, my grandparents immigrated from Eastern Europe, and when I walked the red carpet, I would think about them and say, what do you think they'd think about their grandson walking the red carpet? But then I was shocked out a little bit, because one time I walked the red carpet and I was being interviewed by one of these, if you've seen the Academy Awards in the old days, I mean, the paparazzi dwarf what you saw in politics. You know, one year there were 6,000 reporters. Can you imagine that, from all over the world? And so I'm doing an interview, and as I'm leaving, I hear two people in the back saying, "Who is that man?" You know, so it wasn't as if I was the face of Hollywood. But on the other hand, there's a parallel between movies and agriculture. We export about 50% of our agriculture products. It's life or death to production agriculture to have access to foreign markets. And half our entertainment is exported to the rest of the world. In fact, agriculture, entertainment, and aviation are three big, giant export items, and I had a connection to actually all of them in one way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.